Welcome to Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. It is time for the third quarter book Unhaul, and there are a lot of books sitting next to me. I may have to make multiple trips to the library since they only let me unhaul three boxes of books at a time, but that's okay. Some of you may be wondering why I regularly unhaul books. I think I don't reread books, and I would rather they go to the library and they go into the Friends of the Library bookshop for somebody else to pick them up and discover them and read them because they're not on library shelves, or they're missing that particular book in their collection. They don't do me any good sitting on my shelves taking up space. I don't reread them. I don't have family to pass them on to. So they do the universe far more good in the library bookshop than they do sitting in the landfill someday. So I would rather unhaul them on a regular basis. And I needed to make room for my birthday book haul, which I will link down below. So books had to go to let books come in. I am okay with that. So first I will break this video up into timestamps so you can skip between genres if something doesn't interest you, or you just have no desire to read that particular genre ever. So feel free to bounce around if that's what works for you. First up would be the only nonfiction book in this list. That would be Trump's Enemies by Corey Lewandowski and David N. Bossie. I have read this. I'm not sure if this is reviewed on my blog. My blog, as always, will be linked down below. Love when I find stuff in the book before I unhaul it. I read this when we were in Pennsylvania. It moved across the country with us. It's time to unhaul it. I need the space. So next up, let's do the generic historical fiction. First up would be The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I read this 2018, I think. It was okay. I don't understand the hype around this book. I didn't think it was anything to write home about. I don't recommend it. I don't not recommend it. Next up would be West with Giraffes by Linda Rutledge. This was the August book club choice. I will link that video down below. Again, it was okay. It was nothing to write home about. Okay, that is the generic nonfiction. So this is doesn't really fit well in any other pile. First up would be The Quantum Spy by David Ignatius. I loved this book. This is a thriller. It is well written. It is a quick, easy read, and I actually loved that book. Next up is The Fixer's Daughter by H.Y. Conrad. This was sent to me by the author, this is a contemporary thriller. I love her cozy mystery series. I did not like this book, and I felt so bad at the time. She sent me this book. She approached me to read it. She is a very sweet person. This one didn't work for me. I know this is reviewed on my blog. Yeah, hopefully someone else enjoys it. Next up would be The Darkest Evening by Anne Cleeves. I read this recently. I loved it, but I need shelf space. Okay, next up would be the middle grade series. First up would be The Wizard of Once by Cressida Cowell. I loved this book. This was so much fun. I know there's an entire series. This is the only one I've read. She also wrote the How to Train Your Dragon series. So hopefully some child picks that up and falls in love. Next up is the... Oh, is this book one? No, this is book one. Wondersmith, The Culling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the first book in the Nevermore series. This entire series is wonderful. I think it is better than Harry Potter. She's a much... this series is better than Harry Potter. Unpopular opinion, but there you go. It was better than Harry Potter. I also have the second book, which is Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. And this is book 2. I love this one too. I mean, these are, these are just wonderful middle grade books. So if you're looking for a middle grade book that is, fun and has a female protagonist and some magic and, a school setting, this is a very good choice that isn't Harry Potter. So next up, let's do the cozy mysteries. This is The Monogram Murders by Sophie Hannah. She is authorized by the estate to write new Hercule Poirot mysteries, and they are awful. Did not like this book. Did not like the second book. And don't pick these up. You will be unhappy. Next up is Ian Pierce, The Titian Committee. These are wonderful older cozy mysteries about art theft set in Italy. They are easy to read. They are familiar. They are comfort reads. But it is time I pass them on. So I shall. Oh, look, another Sophie Hannah, The Closed Casket. I don't know why this says it's a Hercule Poirot mystery. It is not. He's barely in the book. It is horrible. It is horrible. Do not. Oh. Okay. Done with that one. This is a Agatha Christie, Black Coffee. This was a play. It's been adapted into a novel by Charles Osborne. This was a Better World book. This one was good. Wasn't great, but it was far. It was true to Hercule. It was true to Poirot, and it was true to Agatha. And you could read this and not realize it's an adaptation of the play. So that was good. Next up is the second book in the Bookmobile Cat Mystery Series. That is Tailing a Tabby by Laurie Cass. As you all know, I love this series. Time to pass this one on. I have read it. I love these covers. I mean, come on, look at that cover. Yeah, I love that series. Next up are two books in another series I love. Not sure which one's first. Let's see. That's 2018. This one is 2019. 2018 book is Pearls and Poison by Anne Canado. And the 2019 book is Hounds of a Basket Stitch, Anne Canado. These are wonderful knitting cozy mysteries. I love the series. I love the characters. They're easy to read. They're fun. They're relaxing. They are enjoyable. And you can never go wrong with an Anne Canado book, in my opinion. Okay. Next up, let's do this pile. This would be the Christian fiction pile. And save that one for last. First up would be The Vanishing at Castle Moreau by Jamie Jo Wright. I read this book in August. I loved this book. This was a delight. It was, I hope the next person that picks it up finds it as wonderful as I did. Next up, Dangerous Beauty by Melissa Coslin. I just read this one as well. This was a middle of the road read for me. It wasn't anything remarkable, and it didn't put her as a must-buy, must-read choice for me. Next up is Across the Blue by Carrie Turansky. I loved this book. I read this in, I want to say, July. I love the cover. I love the writing. I love the story, the faith, the character development. Everything about this book was a win. So whoever picks this up at the library will be incredibly happy. Next up is A Castaway in Cornwall by Julie Klassen. I read this for Katie's Spring into Christian Fiction this year. It is historical Christian romance, a little bit of mystery in here. This was a slow burn delight that I enjoyed immensely. And then Denise Hunter, A Novel Proposal. This too was for Spring into Christian Fiction. I love this one. It was funny and sweet and charming, and it was pure delight, and I want to read more Denise Hunter. So that one's on the list. Last book in this category, and this is Catholic fiction. This is The Woman in the Trees by Theoni Bell. And this is the only Marian apparition that has occurred in America. And this is one I'm on the fence about putting in this pile. Part of me says pass it on. Part of me says keep it. However, I know I'm not going to reread it, so I'm going to pass it on. And someone else will get something out of it. This is a young adult read, by the way. I thought this was a fascinating read. I didn't know about this. I should have known about this. I did not know about this. And it was delightful. It's not a very long book. The story itself is 209 pages. So it's not, it's not a chonker by any means. So okay, next category, we are going to do the fantasy donation pile. First up would be Hounded by Kevin Hearn. This is an Iron Druid book. I want to say it's the first one in the Iron Druid series. It is. These are fantastic. They are fantastic. I've listened to them. They are set in modern day Phoenix. Our hero is a very old druid from the old world, and they are fabulous. It brings in a bunch of mythology characters. It brings in, there's a talking dog talking. I love that series. If I was going to re-listen to any series of books for whatever reason, the Iron Druid Chronicles would end up on that list. It's not going to happen, but it would end up on that list. Next up, this is a big one. This is Sigmar by Graham McNeil. This is a Warhammer fantasy book. And this is a big boy. This is a very, very big boy. It's 950 pages. I read this a while ago. It is big. It was very enjoyable, but if you don't know anything about Warhammer, this is not your typical spell slinging fantasy book. It is different than that. Okay, next up is the Mistborn series, Era 1. Beautiful British covers. So there is the Final Empire, Well of Ascension, Hero of Ages. These were on the do I get rid of them, do I keep them internal conversation I've been having. I'm still sort of having that internal conversation with these books. But I know I'm never going to read them again. I know Dave isn't going to pick them up and read them. And, you know, they're in perfect condition. So I'm going to give them to the library and let somebody else add to their series. Next up is four out of the 5 books of the Great Library series by Rachel Kane. They're right here. I believe I lent the 5th book out to somebody and never got it back, and that's fine. So there's Smoke and Iron, Paper and Fire, Ash and Quill, and this one doesn't match and drives me nuts, Sword and Pen. I really enjoyed this series when I read it. It is coming of age, steampunk fantasy in which the Library of Alexandria still exists. They're set in Egypt. They're set all over the world, actually. And I really enjoyed this series. It is not a complicated read. They are engaging and fun and an easy recommendation. Okay. Next up is Warlock Holmes, A Study in Brimstone by G.S. Denning. This is the first book in the Warlock Holmes series. And as you can imagine from the title, this is a Sherlock Holmes take in which Sherlock is a warlock. It's a fantasy setting. There is language in here. There's some violence. There are short stories contained within a novel. Well, they're more than short stories. They're, chapters. There are some illustrations. I just ran across one. Hang on. Where'd it go? Don't you hate when that happens? There we go. There's the illustration. I loved this book. I want to read more in this series. Is it for everyone? No, it's not for everyone. Does that detract from it being a good romp? Absolutely does not. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with that series. I laughed a lot. They're funny, so take it for what you will. And last in the fantasy series would be Sylvanas by Christy Golden. As you know, I read this in September. Got it for my birthday. It's reviewed on my blog. I talked about it in a recent video. This has brought back wonderful memories for me, and someone else will enjoy it, and it can go on the, it's a pass it along. It's nothing I'm going to reread. So someone else will get use out of it. All right, next up is the science fiction. And they're all Halo related except this one book. And that is Mass Effect Andromeda Annihilation. I have read all 3 of the Andromeda books. I don't know where the other 2 are. I may have already unhauled them. This was much better than the game. It fleshed out the game. Everything contained in this book should have been in the game. Leave that. All right. So, first up is Halo Oblivion, a Master Chief story. As you can imagine, it's a Master Chief story. This was wonderful. I enjoyed it. Wait a minute. Have I read this? When did this come out? 2019. Okay, I've read it. It hasn't sat on my shelf that long without being read. So, that's going. So, these 3 are a trilogy, even though, yeah, why does book 1 not match books 2 and 3? I loved this series. It deals with the universe before humans were spacefaring people. It deals with the Forerunners. It's called the Forerunner Saga. Book 1 is Cryptum. Book 2 is Primordium. And book 3 is Silentium. And they are all written by Greg Bear. It is a wonderful series. It is nothing like the video game, but it's a wonderful series. I truly loved that series. I really, really did. So the next 3 are Halo books. This is Smoke and Shadow by Kelly Gray. This is a little novella. It's very thin. This is Last Light by Troy Denning. This is a mystery. And I just read this one. This is Legacy of Onyx by Matt Forbeck. I really enjoyed this one as well. I do enjoy Halo books. They are related to the video game, but if you haven't played the video game, it doesn't impede your ability to read and enjoy the books in their own right. So I can easily recommend them.